everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSDM.com, and thanks for joining me today. Welcome to another episode from my bi-monthly Yippee for Yana video series. In today's episode, I'm sharing a delicate Love You card featuring selective pencil coloring. I've already shared the technique I'll be using today in one of my previous videos. I'm using the exact same technique again, but with different supplies and only doing partial coloring. I'm starting to work on my card by stamping a beautiful center cut heart background stamp in watermark ink onto Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I have a piece of cardstock cut to about 11 by 5.5 inches, so half of a letter sheet. I will later trim it down to just 4 by 5.25 inches, but right now I need it larger. Since I'm using a large background stamp, it's just easier for me to work on a larger sheet of paper. I'm stamping this in watermark ink so that I have a faint impression on my paper. I want to heat emboss this background in white embossing powder. I always love the look of white on craft, but I also want to color parts of this background with my colored pencils. And to make it easier for me to color, I'm first stamping the image using a stamp positioner tool, going to color it while there's still no embossing powder there, as if you ever go over the embossing powder with a colored pencil, you can easily color it. Or you can leave indentations in it if you have a very sharp pencil. Or you can even remove the heat embossed powder from the paper. Now, I don't really worry about this when I color on dark surfaces where my heat embossing is done in gold or some other metallic color, as it just doesn't show as much. But here, any imperfections in my embossing powder will show. So to avoid that, I'm going to color first and will heat emboss the image later over my coloring. And since this requires to stamp the image in the exact same spot, I'm using a stamp positioner tool. There's no other way to do this, as the image, or the stamp, is not a clear stamp and you simply cannot eyeball it this time. I'm going for a very soft, feminine look, and for my coloring I've selected just 2 pencils, white and rose carmine. And these are POLYCHROMOS pencils. I've mentioned this many times in the past. I simply adore these and I use them all the time. I couldn't remember how these colors looked on this paper, so I did a quick test to make sure I got the desired look and effect. And I often tend to test the colors of my pencils on a particular paper that I'm working on prior to doing my coloring, just to make sure there won't be any surprises. I have a small 36 set of pencils, and in that set there's only one hot pink and no lighter pink pencil. When I color, I like to have a light and a dark shade of one color to have nice gradual transitions. So I'm using a white pencil instead, and I'm blending the hot pink into a lighter pink and finally into white with the help of the white pencil. I don't want to color the entire background, as A, that's going to take too long, and B, this is not what I have in mind for this card. I want to have a lot of craft on my card, a lot of white, and just hints of pink. So I'm adding those hints of pink using the pink and white pencils. I've selected the shapes or parts of this background that I want to color, and I'm coloring them one by one, making sure to take time to blend the transitions of color. I add pink pencil, I add white pencil, and next I come in with the pink and blend the transition in between the pink and the white. Now, what I love a lot about the POLYCHROMOS pencils is that they are erasable in a way. You can take a regular pencil eraser, and erase some of the color if you made a mistake, for example. It's a very cool and valuable quality of this product, I think. As sometimes I change my mind, or the coloring doesn't look the way I want it to look, or I've accidentally colored over something that I wasn't planning to color. So I use the pencil eraser quite often when I color with my POLYCHROMOS. I ended up adding too much pink to these 2 first shapes, so I later erased the pink color and added a lot more white, and you can see that in the photo here. Now, I know you can use different mediums to blend the pencils. I honestly don't have any in my stash, and I don't use any. I just blend the colors using the pencils themselves. So here's what my colored background looks like. I didn't color a lot on the sides, as I knew I'd be trimming it down to about 4 inches wide, so there was just no need to do that extra coloring. You'll notice I also colored some sections just white. I debated whether I should color the heart and the middle white or leave it craft, and I ended up not coloring it at all. I wonder what you guys think. Should I have colored it white or maybe pink, or does it look good enough without the coloring? I replaced my background inside my stamp platform. I treated it with an anti-static powder tool. I inked up the stamp with embossing ink and stamped it once again. Now, since I did not move the stamp and I didn't cut the paper, I was able to stamp this exact image in the exact same spot. So that's the beauty of using a stamp positioner tool like this platform here. I'm going to add my white embossing powder, and this is embossing powder from Hero Arts, and we'll go ahead and heat set it with my heat tool. As soon as I added the powder, the background transformed completely and it started to look very soft and feminine. And I always love to heat emboss in white on craft. I trimmed my background to 4 by 5¼ inches and I started working on additional elements for my card. I wanted to add a flower, a floral cluster, so I used the roses from the Best Mom Ever stamp set, and I basically did the exact same thing. I stamped images using my stamp positioner using a watermark ink. I colored, and I heat embossed the image in white. Now, I was planning to have a large rose and 2 smaller roses along with some white colored leaves, but I ended up making just 1 large rose, and I think that was more than enough for this card. I cut this flower out right up to the edge and I skipped adding leaves. The colored parts of the background complemented the flower nicely, so I didn't really need to add the leaves here. I also stamped and colored the word love from the stained glass love stamp set in the same way, although I used just the pink pencil and I didn't do any blending. I also used a coordinating die and cut this word out in my Spellbinders Platinum die cutting and embossing machine. My machine sits off to the side as it doesn't fit in the video frame, so this is why I'm not showing the die cutting part on video. I also wanted to add "You Forever and Always" part of the sentiment, but I wanted to heat emboss it in white on pink. Now, I didn't have any pink cardstock that matched in color to the pink coloring, so I made my own little piece of pink paper by coloring a piece of this craft paper using my pencil. I always do this with my Copic markers and sometimes do this with my watercolors, so why not do this with the pencils, right? It matched perfectly. I heat embossed the sentiment and trimmed it into a super skinny strip using my tonic trimmer. I use this guy all the time to cut everything for my projects. It's a smaller trimmer, so I can't make top folding cards or card bases. I've been making side folding card bases ever since I got it, but I just love it. It doesn't take a lot of space, and this is crucial for my crafty corner as it's basically just an L-shaped table in our living room. And this trimmer also cuts perfectly. I die cut a fun foam layer for the Love die cut. I used white fun foam, added double-sided sticky to both front and back of the fun foam, and cut it out using a coordinating die. I love to do this when I want to add a solid layer of dimension to my die cuts, and that's pretty much all the time. I also foam mounted the skinny strip right under the Love and foam mounted the large flower using a double layer of foam adhesive for twice the height. Finally, I foam mounted this panel onto an A2 side folding card base made out of white paper. I also used fun foam here and double-sided adhesive to have a solid layer of dimension under this panel. Obviously, you don't have to do this. Good old foam adhesive squares or foam adhesive strips work just fine for this. I simply prefer to do things this way. Plus, this adds a lot of stability to the card. One last thing that I did, I added some shimmer to the flower using my Tonic Aqua Shimmer pen. So this finishes this card and video. I hope you will give this idea a try. If you do try it, we'd love it if you would share your project and tag us on social media. We'd love to see what you make. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!